Welcome back to the Getting Results Inc. podcast. My name is Coach Gino, and alongside is Super Coach, Coach Ken. Super Coach, how goes it?
Goes well. Still keeping America safe for capitalism in our travels to the heartland of America, spreading the word of making more money and having more fun, and that capitalism always wins in the end.
Love it. And you know what? That kind of ties into today, in our topic today. Super Coach and I were talking about some different things over the last week, and this really resonated with us. And so the question you're probably asking yourself out there, if you're not making what you want to make, is, or the question to ask yourself, am I 10 times dumber than someone else? Is that why I'm not making 10 times as much money, or I'm not as rich as the next person who I'm comparing myself to? What we want to let you know is you're not 10 times dumber than the person around you. There's something else that has you not be making or producing what they're making. So let's play with this idea about intelligence and making money.
So let's put it out there. Let's make believe you're making $1 million a year in production, which I'm sure most of you actually are, because you listen to our podcasts, you've read the books, read the articles, and dove deep into our work, been to sea, and you're also coached by us, so you actually make more than $1 million a year. But you make $1 million, but you probably know somebody who makes 10, right? Or maybe you even know people who have 20 or are worth 50 or maybe even worth $100 million, right? Big numbers here. But let's talk about the $10 million producer, or whoever is that largest producer in your office, in your region, in your triumvirate, or wherever you live. Ask yourself the simple question: are they 10 times prettier than you? Are they 10 times smarter than you? Or how about this one? Can they run the 40-yard dash 10 times faster? It's an interesting thing in the realm of human performance. There is no such thing as a multiplier effect except in the area of production. So it's a funny thing, Gino. No one on the planet can run the 40-yard dash 10 times faster than you or me, even at our mature ages. Like even a cornerback for the Cleveland Browns could not run the 40-yard dash 10 times faster than either of us.
That'd be pretty fast.
That would be really fast. Obviously, if I could run the 40-yard dash in 5 seconds, I don't know. So just think about that. Even the cornerback from the Cleveland Browns could not run the 40-yard dash in 1 second or a half of a second. Of course, they would be faster than I am, but not 10 times faster. So there's this interesting thing in the realm of production or making money. People can make 10 times the amount of money that you make, or even 20 times and 30 times, but they cannot be 10 times faster in the 40-yard dash, 10 times smarter, 10 times more motivated, or any of those things. So it begets this fascinating question: how can they produce that much more? So like in this title of this podcast that we're playing with, you're not 10 times dumber, so why aren't you 10 times richer? Begets a fascinating question.
This myth that there's advisors out there that are naturally gifted, that they have this something, this talent, they're faster, smarter, whatever, that's why they're earning more than us. But is it really that?
Well, some of them are flat out mutants, right? I mean, you got to look on the bell curve of things. Some of them are literally mutants, but often they're good people, nice and centered, but what they're really running is they're running a business based on what their slight edges are. They're running a business that's in alignment with them. And by running that business, they are going further and faster, less fuel. You know, Gino, one of the funny things we can point out is that we did a presentation in Kansas, and one of the individuals said, I really want to grow my business by a lot. Okay, and I really want to grow my business by a lot. And we said, okay, well, what's the major friction point in your world? Because I got to know, I just want to grow my business. And we said, well, maybe the business isn't the friction point. Maybe you're out of alignment somewhere. Because what we bring to the table is that we treat most of our clients, or all of our clients, like a professional athlete. And what that simply means is that everything that you do counts. You are always working. You are always on. Now, most people do not like when I say that. They cringe. Like, no, I need my weekends to play golf. This is for me. Or, oh, I don't want to work all the time. Or how about this one? We heard the person say, well, I don't want to make any more money. What if you don't want to make any more money? And I said, slap them hard, slap them silly. Now, I'm kind of joking, wouldn't slap the person. But if you don't want to make more money, then you know what that really means? It means you don't want to provide any more value. It really means you don't think that what you do is noble and right, and that you are actively keeping America safe for capitalism. You do not understand the value that you are or what you do. But imagine if you did. Slight edge. Okay? That's a slight edge. Imagine you have a great relationship with your wife. That's a slight edge. Because guess what happens if you have a lousy relationship with your spouse? Do you think that's good for your business? Or you have a lousy relationship with your kids? Do you really think that's good for your business? You think that's a slight edge? That's an additive that's making you go further, faster, and less fuel? Or is that creating some friction? And Gino, what happens when we create friction?
Man, those fires come right after that. Fires come right after friction. And if there's enough friction, the fire's raging.
Correct. And if your house is on fire, what do you get to do that day?
Run.
Run, or you try to put it out, or you try to save the cat, the dog. It dominates the space. No appointments that day, no playing golf that day because your house is on fire. Now, we say that allegorically. That means like in pictures, allegories for all you college grads out there. Allegorically. So if your house is on fire, it dominates the space. Not necessarily doesn't have to be your house, but what if one of your key staff member leaves you? What if your spouse leaves you? What if your kids decide to go sideways? And you know what kids can do. Bad things at times, or maybe even good things. But slight edges lead to exponential rates of return.
So, Super Coach, if it's not that they're 10 times smarter, 10 times prettier, 10 times faster, then what is it about these larger producers, people who are richer, people who are producing more? What is it about them?
A, they're in alignment. So if you listen to our past things about the priority tree, I think a major marker is they actually love what they do. They understand that what they do is noble and right, and they truly enjoy being of service, and they come from a heart of service, right, to make the world a better place.
And Super Coach, I'd also argue, because a lot of them tend to be our clients, that we've helped them identify what those slight edges are. And as we like to say, if you identify those slight edges and they compound and they compound daily, weekly, monthly, all of a sudden, you're in the place you want to be, whatever that goal might be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. So slight edges, people, it's why we create a whole slight edge accelerator program, is to help put lighter fluid on what you're doing and really give you that, identify that slight edge and have you do it. Because it's really about consistency, doing it over and over. And as Super Coach likes to say, it's the again that matters. Like, are you doing the right agains to drive the production, if that's what you want, to drive the production where you want it to go?
And the again, this doesn't have to be beating your head against the wall by doing, if you like seminars, awesome, keep doing them. But if you don't like seminars, maybe you shouldn't do them. Okay? Or if you're actively cold calling and you don't like it, or there's a lot of resistance to it, you may want to rethink that strategy depending on where you are in the business. So I should refer to the podcast where we discussed about the 4 levels of a business: survival, thrival, mastery, and purpose. Right? Depending on where you are, your technique for growing the business, I believe, needs to adapt. Because the most important thing is that you enjoy the game. Remember, business is a game that can never be won. It's only played. But if you enhance the player, the game itself improves. So anything that interferes with your love of the business needs to be either eliminated, lubricated, or deleted, because it interferes with the game.
Yeah, and that leads to our recent podcast on the mindset that you have, right? Like, if you have the wrong mindset, you're putting yourself at disadvantage. And unfortunately, financial advisors can be very vulnerable to the dips and in the ups and downs of the business if they're not focused on the right thing, activity. they're focused on production alone. Now all of a sudden you're on that roller coaster ride, and then you start to think, well, they must be smarter than me. They have to be 10 times smarter. They have to be 10 times more talented. That's why they're doing better than me. It isn't necessarily that.
It's not necessarily that either. And sometimes it's not the market that has advisors go sideways. It's their fellows and their colleagues and their tribes and their cohorts.
Oh,
It's the people that they surround themselves with who have the right answer on how to grow a business. So for everyone out there, here's a little secret. There is no one right way to do anything. Okay. Right. So a great thing in business is that everything works. Every single thing works to grow your business. Now, the hard part is what's going to work for you, or what are you willing to work over time?
Or you're willing to stop, to use your noggin to discern what is the thing that you want to do and willing to do consistently so that you can drive it to where you want to drive it. I think some people don't take the time to stop and discern.
And using your noggin isn't that easy. Okay, so let me remind everybody of something. If you think you are thinking, you are probably not. Unless there is a pen in your hands or your fingers are on a keyboard, you are not thinking. Okay? If you think you're thinking, you're doing surface level thought. Real thought takes effort, right? It's actually not easy. Your brain is actually built not to think deeply because of its calorie expenditure. You would prefer surface level thoughts, prefer patterns. That's why you go to work the same way. It's why you sit in your desk the same way. It's why you go to your favorite restaurant and you order the same thing each time you're at the favorite restaurant, because you like patterns, because real thought takes effort. So unless you have a paper in front of you, pen in your hand, or keyboards on a fingers, you're probably not thinking, or you're engaged with someone in a conversation who's actually focused on you. Now, remember, most conversations with people are about they speak, you speak, they speak, you speak. You're really not listening to each other. You're just trying to share what's going on in your world, or guys have this tendency to one up people. So one of the benefits of us as coaches, we actually listen to you and try to help you, help you create those slight edges and then implement. Because once again, thinking isn't easy.
Yeah. And we've made this easy for people too. Obviously, it's easy when you become a client of ours. We'll make it real easy for you. But we have a podcast that we put out, episode 69, the top slight edges of the $1 million plus producing financial advisor. We actually hand you the 7 keys, the 7 secrets, the
For
7
free?
slight edges for free.
God,
So we're handing that to you. So we're handing you the formula. It's not about being smarter. It's not about being prettier, all that stuff. It's the slight edges. And we identify the top 7 for you to implement, or pick the one or two that resonate and go with it.
Perfect. Now, and those slight edges might not be yours, but it's still this distinction. If you discern, what could that be for you? Now, one of the ways to think about a slight edge is, where are you naturally at advantage? Like, where do you naturally accelerate building likability and trust? Where do you naturally like to be? Now, are you an introvert who doesn't like people, but yet you're a financial advisor? This happens. Okay? So if you're an introvert who doesn't like networking and doesn't like working a room, that simply means you need to find a different way. Okay? What I've noticed with coaching introverts, or real like wizards, the brainiac types, is positioning them as an expert. Okay, you need to be the one on the stage, or you need to be the one up in front, or you need to be the one that writes the articles. That you're the wizard, if you will. It's about positioning. But there are other people who can walk into a room and make 50 friends if there's 50 people. Okay, and they may not want to get up on stage and speak. Well, they shouldn't have to. Like, where are you naturally inclined? And then another arena to look in slight edges are, do you collect any weird stuff? Right? And weird can be anything from cars to horses to stamps to
animals,
plants, orchids, whatever your weirdness is. And I say that with love. is an opportunity to differentiate yourself, to find a slight edge. Like I mentioned, one of our current clients is really niching out or weirding out, which is beautiful because it gives him a moat for his business. It gives him a way to know where to prospect and know where to do and know where, and most importantly, to know where he is at advantage. And what he's really into are cigars, right? Cigars and bourbon. He's taking a little break from the bourbon, but the cigars are becoming quite an interesting niche for him. He's even got Instagram and Facebook accounts, and he's creating conversations with cigar store owners across the nation. Interesting niche.
Yeah.
Now, remember, once again, how do you accelerate likability and trust within your target or ideal market? And do you know who your target or ideal market is? Like, do you know who you serve? And if you just say, well, I serve a human being over the age 50 with $500,000 in investable assets, that's a really big market. It's a really hard one to hit consistently and with expertise. But a slightly different spin on that is that if your target market is 50-year-old people who also like cigars, all of a sudden you know where to find them. Okay, use your brains out there if you can't figure that one out. Okay, where do cigar people go? Cigar shops, cigar lounges, cigar clubs, cigar bonanzas. They're easy to find because you can smell them before you see them.
And that one's a pretty one to weed people out, because if there's someone's in there, guess what they like?
Yeah, right. It's funny when I bring my wife into a cigar lounge. She is like, "Can we leave? It's too much smoke. It's too much smoke."
She's not a cigar lover.
Yes, it's a good way to screen. It's a good
She
way
is
to
not a
screen
prospect.
people. Not a prospect. She is definitely not a prospect.
Not a one. And it can be as simple as, I told you this story. One of our clients, he got a golf simulator. All of a sudden, he's inviting people to the golf simulator. Guess what?
Touchdown.
He loves to hit golf balls. And guess what? He invites other people who do. And guess what? He recently got a nice, great client out of that. It took some time. He used his slight edge. Again, consistency, doing it week over week over week. And I think ended up being a $1.2 million client out of that deal by playing golf on a simulator on Wednesday afternoons.
Fooling around, not even working. We know where he is on the bell curve.
And first, Ken, your point about being a introvert. If you're an introvert, but you're doing something that you and that prospect love to do, or your client love to do, you don't have to be the life of the party, because you're both sharing in a common thing that you're both passionate about. You don't have to do a whole lot of talking, because the talking happens by the activity you're doing with that person. That's where the real stuff happens.
And for those of you that like to grind and call and do all that stuff, we're not saying not to do that. You can keep doing it. One of the reasons, though, you want to work on your slight edges, because it keeps you sane. It helps you enjoy the game. Because remember, the more that you enjoy the game, the more that you're going to play the game. It's like, some of the people that we met on our world tour here in Kansas City, very, very successful people. Most of them in the room were over $1 million in production, and making a lot of money, very successful people. But there was an interesting thing that I noticed at times, is that they were successfully miserable. Right? But imagine being successfully miserable, which many of you may be, that your business is owning you. You're in the office at 7. You don't leave until 6. You never feel like you're catching up. The whirlwind is you're under a constant assault. You feel like you're drowning, but you're making a lot of money and you qualify for plaques, trips, and all the other stuff. So then it's okay. But yet you're miserable, you're overweight, you're stressed out, you don't see your kids, you don't even know your wife's middle name anymore. But yet you think that this is the way that it's supposed to be, because somebody said this is the way it has to be, that you have to grind, you have to suffer. And if you want to be successful, you got to grind off your face for years and years and years and years. Grasshoppers, what if that wasn't true? That to make it, you do have to grind. There's no doubt about it. But here's an interesting equation. How long do you have to grind for? Like, when do you know that you made it in the business and that you actually kind of know what you're doing?
Yeah.
You can write in your guesses and put your guesses in the comments. But like, what is the magic moment that you've made it? Should we tell them because we don't want to get overflowing with comments and
Yeah, go for it.
all right.
Reveal it.
Here it is. 5 years. If you've been in the business 5 years, you have made it. How do I know?
You're still alive and going.
Yeah. How do I know? Yeah, you're still alive. You're still in the business. 80% of the people don't make it after 5 years. If you're still in the business, you actually have a skill set and you're actually good. And now it's time to thrive. Okay, but don't get too cocky on this one because at the 10-year mark, there's another massive kill rate. Even some of the firms got really good. There's some firms out there that have tremendous programs that really build people up, have great communities, etc. But even their kill rate's about at 50%. So most people do not make it in this business. So if you do want to make it in this business long term, my coaching or my hint of the day is love it, enjoy it. Like, what do you need to do to truly love your business?
Super Coach, you just prompted a thought. So when we were in Missouri, remember I mentioned someone who said, well, what if you don't want to make more money? And we took that as a negative. But here's what I think that person was thinking. Here's what it is. I'm making a lot of money. My business is already running me. I don't want more clients.
Right. I don't want more.
I don't want more money because it just means that I'm still going to be miserable because I can't exercise. I can't be with my family. So really, yeah, they don't want to make more money because they think that they relate that to, well, then that's going to be even more work. I'm going to be grinding even more.
Right. I'm already successfully miserable. How much more miserable can I become?
I don't want more. My clients already drive me nuts. Now you want me to add more of them?
Spot on. Spot on.
So there it is.
And that's part of it as well, right? Is that the business is already overwhelming. Why would I want to double it or triple it? Because friends out there, another PSA, public service announcement. No matter whatever the dollar amount you're making it is, I'm sure most other people are successful, right? So that assumes you're making success is variable. Let's call it you're making $300,000 a year. Okay, that's a lot of money. You're way to the right on the bell curve of most Americans. If you're making $300,000 a year, and then you hire us, now I shouldn't be saying this, but I will. You work with us, and now you're making $900,000 a year, 3 times the amount. Now you're buying the fancy cigars and wingtip shoes, and you have a hairstylist instead of a barber. You got Rolexes. Well, here's the hard news, and this is good news and this is bad news. If you make $300,000 and you go to $900,000, your life does not get 3 times better. The steak does not taste 3 times better. The cars do not go 3 times faster. You don't have 3 times the amount of sex. Okay? It relatively stays the same. So what's the point? The point is, if you love the business and you're in alignment, all this money comes because you actually enjoy what you do. You're not striving for, I'm going to get another watch. Now, there are some people that have to be motivated that way, right? And that's fine. But the game is, let's get clear. Let's tell the truth. Business is a game that can never be won. It's only played. Okay? You enhance the player, the game itself improves. And it's slight edges that lead to exponential rates of return. And what's behind the whole slight edge concept is that it keeps you enthused in what you're doing. Now, if we look at the word enthusiasm, it comes from Greek or some ancient dead language. But the root of that word means filled with the spirit of the gods. Enthusiasm. And here's a funny thing about enthusiasm. It sells. People are attracted to those that are enthusiastic and up to stuff. That's why if you're doing things that you like to do, you have a higher level of natural enthusiasm for it, which then is infectious, which is a slight edge, which puts you on advantage for accelerating likability and trust.
Yep. Love it. Really good stuff. We didn't even get into, and I don't know that we should today. We've done another call. The whole thing about comparing up, that's an example of, hey, that person's making so much more than me. They must be 10 times smarter, 10 times, right? We always like to compare up versus just compare down or even, to the people around.
how much better you actually are. Like how
Right.
gifted and how blessed that you actually are. You know, the
Yep.
fun joke that we say. So we were in Kansas City, and here's one of the things that we did not do. We didn't do this. We had a lot of opportunities to do it, but we didn't do it. We saw the homeless guy laying on the side of the road, right, with his sign and no shoes and like homeless, rough, like rough. And we didn't, or you would never do this. You wouldn't walk up to him and go, "Hey, you, I want to remind you of something. I have a house. I just want you to know I am so much better than you. I got a career, I got a car, I got dogs, I got horses, I got a boat. I have a great life, and I just want you to know that I am about 10 times better than you." Right? You would never do that to a person. We never compare down. But yet you drive through a neighborhood, you see somebody with a 25,000 square foot house, and you go, why can't I be like him? He or she must be doing something much better than me. Instead of saying they're on a different path. Their path is unique to them, and that path is for them and them alone, just like your path is for you and you alone. And if you actually spend more time and attention on your path, you will go further and faster down your path of where you are supposed to be and where your own personal evolution is headed.
Nice. Super Coach, let's recap. So intelligence really isn't the variable you should be looking at. Okay. You're not 10 times dumber.
It helps.
What's that?
Right? Brains help.
They help.
Right? They help. Right? And
They
brains
help.
can be a slight edge too. But it's
you can
not.
also outthink yourself into doing anything, right? Which leads to
You can
this.
be
It's
too
about
smart.
consistency. And what is consistency? Slight edges. Those small disciplines that compound over time that produce massive results with patience and consistency, right? And it's about doing those things over and over. But first off, to Super Coach's point, you got to identify what your slight edges are. We help people with that, right? We can help you identify those slight edges and then
And it might not
take
be what you
advantage of
think it is.
them. Yeah, leverage them.
Right. And it may not be that, well, I'm the one who's first in the office and last to leave, or I make 26 calls each day, every day without fail. And yes, that may be a slight edge, but it may not necessarily be yours. Right. And because we're all complex creatures, right? And part of the game is figuring out your own level of complexity and getting you in alignment with you, right? To control thyself, know thyself, and to thine own self be true. If you don't know yourself or you don't know how to control yourself, you're playing at disadvantage. Okay. But if you can figure out, okay, how can I stay locked in longer? How can I stay sane and engaged for longer periods of time? You're now playing to advantage. Because as Gino was saying earlier, then you tap into the compound effect. You keep doing the right things over and over again, piling grains of sand, right? The cascade eventually hits.
Yep. Love it. Love it. So, Super Coach, I think something the listeners should do is number one, listen to podcast episode 69. Listen to the top slight edges. Again, those are just the top 7 that we have. You may find other slight edges. The other thing is, whether it's that one or another, pick a discipline, pick a slight edge. I try to identify one and then start executing on that slight edge. Be consistent. Let it compound. Be patient. Keep swinging the hammer.
Listen to our podcast each week, every week, without fail, until you catch up.
Yeah. All right, Super Coach, let's wrap it up. So, hey, to our listeners, if this resonated, share it with one advisor this week, right? When you get this podcast, share it. Forward it on. Recommend it. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on our website, gettingresultsinc.com. By the way, if you're interested in really this slight edge idea, besides one-on-one coaching, which we highly recommend, we have the Slight Edge Accelerator program. We have one coming up September 29th and 30th in Lubbock, Texas. Go to our website. Check it out. We highly recommend that you register for that because if you want to really identify slight edges, that'll be the place to do it. Super Coach, any last words before we say goodbye?
Nothing of value is easy. Everything is earned. But if you can figure out this idea of this slight edge, you're then playing to advantage. And like, I mean, we've said many of them, and I've got a really simple ones is literally just listen to the podcast consistently, read the articles, get in contact with us or create relationships with us, whether that's Gino or I, or other of our coaches, whether that's through LinkedIn or any of our social media accounts. Because if you can get on our radar, eventually you'll get into our sphere of influence, if you will. And you haven't seen the impact of the work that we have had with people over the years, but that we have. And so, trust me, it behooves you to know us, to be around us, and to be in a conversation because we are keeping America safe for capitalism. And if you would like to make more money and have more fun, we have a whole cohort, we have whole people who are in conversations of design, like living a life and business by design. One of my guys went to a big muckety muck thing through at one of the big LPL, Ray J, one of those companies, and he's sitting with these other producers, and they're like, "Oh my God, my work is horrible. I got business, I make so much money, but I'm not happy." And my guy was like, "Well, do you have a coach?" And they're like, "Why would I need a coach? I'm really successful and making a lot of money." He's like, "All right, maybe you don't, but I hear you saying that, your business is running you and owning you." And they're like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I don't know if I should share this or not, but I am going on a 6-week vacation." So all depends on what you want, people.
There it
All
is.
depends on what you want.
Awesome.
Right.
All right, Super Coach, thank you. To our listeners, thank you again, and we look forward to our next episode. Until then, be great.